Okay, so you've probably seen CBD absolutely everywhere, right? It's marketed as this natural solution for, well, almost everything, it seems. Stress, pain, you name it. For you, in this deep dive, we're going to try and cut through some of that marketing hype. We want to get to the crucial science behind cannabidiol. Now, you likely know CBD is, the non-intoxicating bit from hemp. It doesn't give you that high like THC, and that very idea that it's safe has just fueled this explosion in use. But that's really just the start of the conversation.
That's exactly right. I mean, there is an FDA-approved version of Pediolex, but that's highly purified for very specific rare epilepsies. But most of what you see out there, it's operating with really broad claims, often, well, frankly, unsubstantiated claims. So our mission today really is to unpack the significant risks, the ones often overlooked that you genuinely need to be aware of.
Okay, let's unpack that. When we talk safety, I think most people immediately think about, well, not getting high, right? Compared to THC. But our sources are pointing to something potentially much more critical and maybe surprising. How CBD interacts with other medications you might be taking. What's actually happening there chemically?
Yeah, this is fascinating. It's CBD's really potent interaction with your body's main drug processing system, the Cytochrome P450 enzymes, mostly in your liver. CBD basically acts as an inhibitor. It slows down how your body breaks down, get this, over 60% of all prescription drugs.
60%, wow.
Yeah. Think about grapefruit. It's pretty well known that grapefruit interacts with meds, right? Doctors often warn about it. Well, our sources highlight that CBD is actually a more potent inhibitor of these crucial enzymes than the compounds in grapefruit people are told to avoid.
More potent than grapefruit.
That's what the data suggests. And what that means is you can get increased levels of other drugs building up in your system, potentially reaching toxic levels.
Okay, hold on. Toxic effects. So this isn't just like the CBD maybe not working as well or the other drug being slightly less effective. This could actually be dangerous if you're on certain medications.
It certainly could be. We're talking about potentially serious consequences.
Right. So think about someone on, say, blood thinners like warfarin or anti-epileptic drugs, maybe antidepressants, even common things like statins. Taking CBD could, theoretically, change how those drugs work quite dramatically, maybe leading to things like, I don't know, excessive bleeding risk or just more severe side effects from their normal meds.
Precisely. It significantly alters the playing field for those medications. It's a really big concern, especially if you're managing multiple health conditions and multiple drugs.
That's a huge point. And I imagine, like you said, is one many people just aren't thinking about. And look, it's not just about these internal interactions, right? We also need to talk about the products themselves, what you're actually buying off the shelf or online. You mentioned the market's often unregulated. Sounds like a bit of a danger zone. Can you even trust the label?
That's a really important question. And frankly, the studies are pretty alarming. One showed something like 74% of CBD products tested were off-label, meaning their actual CBD potency deviated by at least 10% from what the label claimed, sometimes more, sometimes less.
74%, that's most of them.
It is. And it goes beyond just the CBD amount. Even products clearly labeled THC-free, a major selling point for many, have been found to contain, well, significant amounts of THC, which, of course, can lead to unexpected psychoactive effects, people getting high when they had absolutely no intention of doing so.
Right, the very thing they were trying to avoid.
Exactly. And it actually gets worse. We need to talk about contamination. Hemp, the plant itself, is what's called a strong bioaccumulator.
Bioaccumulator.
Meaning it's really good at sucking things up from the soil it grows in, good things and bad things. So we're seeing concerning reports of CBD products contaminated with things like heavy metals, lead, for example, pesticides used in farming, or residual solvents left over from the extraction process. Sometimes these contaminants are found at levels exceeding regulatory safety limits, where limits even exist. These are sort of invisible chronic health hazards.
Invisible hazard. Okay, that's quite unsettling. So it's not just that the label might be wrong about the CBD or THC. You could actually be ingesting heavy metals or pesticides pulled from the dirt. That's that's worrying.
It's definitely a factor to consider with plant-based products in a loosely regulated space.
And just as we start to wrap up here, we should probably touch on specific groups who might need to be extra cautious, vulnerable populations.
Absolutely. The FDA, for instance, strongly advises against CBD use during pregnancy or while breastfeeding. There's just a profound lack of human safety data, and some animal studies have raised concerns about potential developmental issues. The guiding principle here really is that an absence of evidence of harm cannot be interpreted as evidence of safety. We just don't know enough.
Right. better safe than sorry when it comes to pregnancy.
Yeah, definitely. And for children, too, outside of that very specific doctor-supervised use of a Epidiolex for severe epilepsy, the effects on a developing brain are largely unknown. Plus, those unregulated products bring that higher risk of accidental THC exposure we talked about. And finally, individuals with pre-existing health conditions, particularly liver disease, given that the liver is central to processing CBD, they face a heightened risk of potential liver injury or damage.
Okay, so when you pull it all together, there's this real disconnect, isn't there, between the promising potential of CBD that gets talked about a lot, and these very real, often quite serious risks that our sources have highlighted today. Risks that seem, well, underestimated.
I think that's fair to say. The sheer complexity of CBD's interactions inside the body, combined with the, let's call them dangers of an unregulated market, and the specific vulnerabilities of certain groups, it all just underscores the need for, well, extreme caution and more research.
So think about everything we've just unpacked. What really stands out to you from this deep dive? And maybe more importantly, given these insights, what steps can you, the listener, take to maybe critically evaluate these kinds of health products?
Yeah.
How can you ensure your safety in a market where, let's face it, the marketing often seems way ahead of the science?